right. And 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Trensetta Lounge. We are joined by a special guest here in the lounge, Amy Webb, who is the co-founder of Bucket List Egypt, and she's also the founder of Dia Marketing. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you, Cammie. It's nice to be here today and appreciate all that you're doing in the community and doing this awesome interview.
Yes. So I got to ask before we, get started, what's been like your travel life these past couple of months, or like where are you traveling?
Well, it's a great question because I actually just got back from Cancun, but I am taking it a little easy right now because we have recently found out we're pregnant.
So wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But prior to COVID, definitely was an avid traveler. Obviously like a big traveling place for me because of business and personal has been Egypt. So I've been there a few times now, or more than a few times, because I'm just really passionate about that. But other than that, I love traveling. Like I love seeing culture. I love trying out new foods. I love places all around the world. So I've been to, maybe a couple of my favorite places might be like Bali, maybe Costa Rica. Those are some really cool places that I've been to. Aside from Egypt.
Yes, I've never been to Egypt, but I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about what you do in the travel space and how that came about.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I used to travel to Egypt. I'm first generation Egyptian American, so I was born here in the U.S., but my family's from Egypt. So when I was younger, my family would take us to Egypt. And I think when I was younger, just being in the U.S., maybe I didn't really embrace like who I was and my background. And I was always just different than everybody else in school. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood in Huntington Beach. And, it was just different. Like they were always just like, well, your hair, like, who are you? And it was just, I kind of didn't really embrace it, maybe like even, I just knew I was different and everybody else was completely different than who I was. And as I got older, learning about ancient Egypt and learning about the ancient, who they were, what they did, what they till today, like the legacy that they've left behind, it blew my mind. And so I took a trip when I turned 30. It was my first adult trip to Egypt. And it actually like changed my life forever because I just couldn't believe like that. I mean, of course, like I was so proud of what ancient, learning about the ancients and what they did and how it's still in existence today. But, I felt like the whole world actually really needed to hear their story. I felt like the whole world needed to experience it. It wasn't just for me, it wasn't like even just history, but like it was literally a spiritual like reconnection to the country. And they were really connected with mind, body, and soul. And so that's one of the reasons why they were, till today, it's mysterious how they were able and how successful they built, the country and the land in Egypt. And so I almost became like obsessed with it. And I just said, I really want to share this with the rest of the world, because I think if we know what our ancestors did, like what is our own potential that we can do in this world. And so that's kind of how it all started with Bucket List Egypt.
Okay. Yeah. And I see that one of your main missions for starting these businesses is to really transform that negative assumption of traveling to the Middle East. And so what has been your experience, or how have others that you have interacted with, how have you seen them being transformed through travel?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think in the US and maybe around the world, I don't know, but definitely I've been seeing it is like there is this like in the news, like they a lot of times try to say like traveling to a country in the Middle East or even countries in Africa that um, you know, to really be safe and that there's terrorism that's going on and
Mm.
especially like to like as a young woman, I felt like if you're a woman like coming from the US who doesn't really have like ties, like it would be hard for you to travel just based on like what's the reputation that's in the media.
Right.
And so personally, like traveling to Egypt, it's actually one of the safest countries in the world,
Mm.
with great people. Yes, to be 1,000% real, you have to know what you're doing, where you're going, who you're doing business with,
Of course.
but if you do it all, if it's pre-planned and you're doing it correctly and you do it with a right company or people that like it is a life-changing experience, especially for women, because Egypt, the stories actually around ancient Egyptians and the pharaoh women, is the ultimate women empowerment stories that you can find that are real. So I was like, wow, let's see, like, how can we really change that? Like, how can we really, bridge that gap and create an extremely safe environment for the women that we take, whether they want to do a group, women trip or a solo trip. Like, let's, really bridge that gap. And so, and as you can see in actually one of the pictures, I worked with the ambassador who was here in Los Angeles. Her name was Lemia. And
Mhm.
she's amazing, which was all about women empowerment, especially around Egyptian, empowerment, but, really having that initiative as well. So, so that's just kind of how that was brought up.
Okay. And so what are some of the things that you provide that folks can look forward to when, if they want to take advantage of some of the resources and services that you have to offer?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So really what we try to do is we handle every single thing from the minute somebody gets to Egypt to the time they go back. So
Okay.
everything from their accommodations, like they know who's picking them up at the airport, they know what hotel they're staying at. Every single site is, we have connections and like, special access for some places.
Hmm.
And then we actually like curate trips because um, a lot of people don't know this, but Egypt is, of course, there's so much history with the temples and the pyramids and the Sphinx, but it goes beyond that for travel. Like,
Hmm.
so there's some of actually the most beautiful beaches in the world in the Red Sea, and some of the most expansive, like snorkeling or scuba diving in the world. There's amazing hikes, desert camping. A lot of people too, like we've done like retreats where they do yoga and meditation,
Ooh,
on
okay.
the Nile. So we curate depending on what the intention is, like why they're traveling to Egypt.
Okay. What are some of the top food or top places that you really have enjoyed while traveling to Egypt and maybe even to some other places that you've gone to?
Okay, so I would say one of my favorite things, well, definitely like my staple dish is something called molokhaya. It's a plant
Okay.
that's found on the Nile River, and they make a stew out of it. It's like a green stew. You can find
Ooh,
it in a lot of places around Egypt, but it is my favorite Egyptian dish. So if somebody goes to Egypt,
okay.
I
Okay.
molokhaya. And then a really cool restaurant that we love to take, like I love to like host people at, is
Hmm.
in the bazaar called Khana Khalili.
Okay.
And so Khana Khalili is a 400-year-old bazaar, and there's a restaurant there, and which is extremely old too. And they do very old traditional Egyptian dishes, and the waiters are dressed like in a very, like couple hundred years old like attire and stuff.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
it's really cool. And the very famous dish they have there is pigeon. So
Really? Okay.
Yes. And
Okay.
most people are like, what? But then they try it and it's actually really good. So
Okay.
those
How
would be my like top two, I would say,
how
for
do they cook the pigeon? I'm curious.
you know what? I don't even ask question. It tastes really good, but I have no idea. I wish I could give you an answer. I don't know how they do it. And it's a very random, it's very like Anthony Bourdain-ish. So,
Oh,
you know what I
okay.
mean? Like people are going in there like, okay, let me try something I've never tried before. That's probably the dish you're gonna try when you go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just switching gears here, I also heard that you curated a Black Heritage weekend at the LA County Fair, which generated a lot of local press, and it also impacted over 700 plus Black high school students. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, yeah, my business is data marketing, which we do events and influencer marketing. And so I work closely with my husband, who is the CEO of a nonprofit organization called SEAM. It stands for Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement.
Okay.
And his father's the founder, and he's the CEO of the nonprofit. But it's really out there to create access and resources for African Americans, and especially wealth in the African American communities.
Okay.
And so they have a huge partnership with LA County Fair, and really it's just a celebration for 3 days. And we
Mhm.
just work with local community and different organizations to celebrate what they're doing. And to your point, what we did for it was a couple weekends ago that just happened, but we have been doing it every year. But we work with, it's called the IE National Black Grad. It's founded by Kenesha and Jonathan Bufong,
Mhm.
and they celebrate. It's one of the largest Black grads in the entire country, and so we brought out over 700 Black high school grad students, honored them, and just let them have a great night as like a Black grad night at the LA County Fair. So that was amazing. And then, yeah, we work with like local artists,
Okay.
featuring them on stage, and musicians. And, and yeah, so it's a really fun 3 day weekend. I hope if you're in town next year that you come out to that.
Yeah, it sounds really fun. And speaking of your influencer marketing business, can you talk a little bit more about what specifically you do and what's your goal, in providing this type of service?
Yeah, really my goal is always to create access and opportunities. Like, so that's always my, number one driver. And so, what we do is we connect influencers to opportunities that a lot of times that they get overlooked. So
Hmm.
most of our influencers, I come from the multicultural background, and so we're getting them the opportunities that that's out there, because there's a lot of brands that have a lot of money, and so we're really like looking to diversify, especially like what the brand is doing, and of course in like in an organic and real way.
Hmm.
um, and that has also led and helped with like the start of Bucket List Egypt, as we've also been able with our connection with influencers to bring a ton of different influencers into Egypt,
Hmm.
to like experience Egypt as well. So then the content that's out is curated actually from their point of view, from their own experience.
Hmm.
So it kind of like goes hand in hand with what we're doing with Bucket List Egypt.
Yeah. Are a lot of your influencers, I know you said that you have a lot of influencers who come from a multicultural background, but do you have like Egyptian influencers or what can you just take us into the world of the influencers who you work with?
Yeah, so most of them are actually from the US that we
Okay.
work with. We are trying to find ways to definitely like connect with the influencers, in Egypt as well.
Hmm.
But most of them are from the US. I think one of the biggest ones, like that really has helped with the launching the business was King Batch, who's a comedian, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but I've worked with a lot of different comedians. Models, actors, actresses, depending on like what the partnerships are. So
Hmm.
worked with Lance Gross before and his wife Becca. we've done deals with Mike Tarzan. He's known as Tarzan on Instagram.
Okay.
I think on your social, like I've been seeing on the reel, like we've done a group of, we just did a recent deal with like a group of beautiful, amazing women, young influencer women, models and actresses like Carmela Rose,
Okay.
and her group of, you know, girlfriends that it was like it was like 5 different girls that came out to Egypt to experience it. So that was really
Wow.
fun.
Okay.
So yeah, so like they're just, you know, it's everything. Like it's, you know, you know, really open. And as you know, I'm sure it's kind of like a small world.
It is.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And so where can folks go to take advantage of your services and also just stay up to date with everything that you're doing and that your company is doing?
Yeah. So I would love for people to check out Bucket List Egypt's Instagram if they're interested in going to Egypt. So our Instagram page is at Bucket List Egypt, all one
Okay.
word. And our website is bucketlisteg.com. So it's bucketlisteg.com. But I think the best way, I think now, is really with Instagram.
Okay.
And then to connect with me, they could definitely go on my website, which is deyamarketing.com, and it's spelled DEYAA marketing, MARKETING.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I've never been to Egypt, but I've always had Egypt on my bucket list, as well as Morocco. I've always wanted to go to Morocco as well. So maybe I'll have the opportunity to. It sounds like you're creating a lot of opportunities for folks to experience travel and just really get out there in the world and, you know, have something to experience, which I think is really important because that makes us more well-rounded, right?
Yeah, we would love to have you. So when you're ready, let us know. We'll love to set that up.
All right. Well, Amy right here, Amy Webb, right here on the Trensetta Lounge. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.